Here's Patrick Johnston of the Province and Post Media. How are you?
I'm well. Got my coffee. It's nice and warm, you know. Thinking about vacation. All kinds of. I'm doing well. Feeling good.
Good.
It's summer. It's summertime.
Right. I know it's different for beat reporters, but of those four, or feel free to go off the board here, is there a home game you've already got red circled that you're already eyeing on next year's schedule?
Well, professionally, it's in Horvat. You know, I mean, I think I had a really good relationship with Bo. Got along with him really well. So yeah, just nice to say hello. And I mean, if it is going to be Luongo Hall, a Ring of Honor night, that will be an exciting week as well. So it's a tie for me.
Yeah, those are two pretty big homecomings for two pretty big icons of the last 10, 12 years for this organization. So that stands to reason. Do you think that people will be buying tickets more ferociously than they have in the last couple of years? Do you think this team has done enough to whip up some anticipation for this season, that when those single game tickets go on sale, that they'll actually see a bigger spike than they have in years gone by?
I think there's still an element of wait and see. I think people certainly want to believe. We know that much.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is one of those ones where if they get off to a good start, because we have seen so many bad starts in recent years, if they get off to a good start, that would sort of match the hope, I guess, that's there. And I mean, the beginning of the season is always tough. There's a reason why they tend not to play a ton of home games early in the season. The Canucks have always kind of said, we'd rather play down the stretch. We do better, I think, with sales. Even last season, you know, sales picked up as the season went on, even if they weren't making the playoffs. I know they were obviously throwing a lot of deals at people, but I think the general feeling has been that they when they had a chance to sell tickets of meaning late in the year, they've done better than they do at the beginning of the year. Now, obviously, we are, 10 years into sort of this circling the drain approach. And to me, at the end of the day, it is about whether they start well. It's not so much the buzz coming into the season.
I mean, credit to them for targeting the university student, but can you believe that this organization that was once the place to be seen, that would see people dressed up like they're going to a gala. That's what it looked like at Rogers Arena some nights. They were catering to university students last year. Like, I'd never heard as a father of a university student, never heard so much talk about like kids with no budget going to Canucks games because they were offered these smashing rates.
I mean, in fairness, it's something they've tried before. It did work. It was a way to latch in people when I was their age. In first and second year, 23, years ago, you had incredible deals. You literally had to line up in the morning and you could buy a ticket for $20, and it's a pretty similar story now.
It was, yeah.
Beer was a lot cheaper then. So I think the formula was that they were going to be able to sell you a bunch of beer. Now they just want to sell you one beer, and they've got the same margin as they did off 4 beers. In fact, it's probably better, I guess, because you're only selling one. But yeah, this is a game where they should be people want to demand, they want to bang on the door. You go 10 years ago, people were banging on the door trying to get in, and now it's the opposite. They're trying to keep you in. And there's, we've talked about this so many times. It's when you struggle to win and you don't make the playoffs, and even if, the product isn't that entertaining now, the product has been getting more entertaining. That's a good thing. And that is probably the counter to what I was saying earlier, that at least there is some excitement level. People know they're going to see goals. And I think goals is what people want to see. Now, obviously, they want to see wins, but they want to be entertained. That's the lesson from the Vancouver Canadians. People don't even know the score when they walk out. I will quickly mention the other sport I pay attention to. Canada 7's being renewed, and World Rugby in their release announcing that today. Same kind of approach. They know that people just want to go and have a good time. They go to the stadium. They want to enjoy the event. And I think that's a lesson the Canucks have learned from another of their teams. The Warriors are seen as a way to start the evening, a thing to do to start your evening. So there is an element to that in that university pricing as well, that this is a thing to do. But I think there is a broader appreciation that is something that people want to do, that is part of their night. It's not the night. Obviously, that's a lot of money given what they're charging for tickets.
Right, that's only part. Oh, my God.
So that's kind of thinking, okay, how do people hey, if they think there's a market for it, then that's where they're going. Now, obviously, that is why they're building new suites and changing the way they approach suites as well. They're trying to get more of a VIP experience for more people, yada, yada, yada. But in the end, the wins and the goals are what drives the experience. And I think if they start well and they're winning, that will make a big difference down the. I mean, that's a shocking revelation, I know.
After his comments to UBS Arena being a lot better than Vancouver, do you think they will boo Bo? And can you tell me that for free?
I think in the end he'll get cheered. I think there's enough. I think the casual fan has enough appreciation. He was the captain. He got lots of cheers when he was still playing. Yeah,
and the live
it'll
audience
obviously be a topic, but a live audience tends to react positively to a player like Bo Horvat.
I was going to say there may well be a smattering, but the live audience is generally not the angry folk.
Yeah.
Right? Like the angry folk are not buying tickets because they don't want to support the owner, or they don't believe in management's plan, or they don't think the players are giving their all. Whatever the case may be, live audiences tend to be a lot kinder and gentler. In this town, at least, maybe not in New York or other places, but in this town, at least, than those who avail themselves of social media.
I mean,
That's my guess going into all this.
Yeah, look at the controversial figures, if you will, of players from years, eras of Canucks past. Pavel Bure comes back for basically, Mike Gillis gets him in the building, and the people went nuts. Like he claimed he was worried that people would boo him because of how he left, but time heals all wounds, except for Mark Messier. And, every time Messier came back, he got booed, and to the point where it's just there's no point in bringing him out because it is such a he is associated so much with how badly that era went. And I don't think Horvat is in that category. And I obviously he's not the player Pavel Bure was, but I think there's enough there that he was here for long enough. There was fans appreciated what he was. He put on some big performances. I think that will overwhelm whatever frustrations people may have felt about his comment about the noise being made in the building, one way or another.
Saw you retweet Dave Tomlinson in his post about leaving the Seattle Kraken. Have you done some digging on the Canucks color commentary job? Do you think it's just going to be DT on the TV side for all?
I wonder. We'll see. They've waited so long to announce the sponsorship last year. I'm not holding my breath for anything. I think if one were to conclude or assume that that's where he headed, I could understand why. Certainly when he made the announcement, I tried to get in touch with him last week and he kept quiet. So that was notable. I mentioned it in the story. I think there's someone, he worked a couple years in Seattle, and I'm sure he had some fun, but I don't know how well it worked financially. I can only, just knowing how the radio business is going in general. And before he took the job, and we talked a few times, and I think I've mentioned this before, like he was doing quite well working in movies, and was the skating or hockey coordinator on the Mighty Ducks series and things like that. And I think in his heart, he wants to be a hockey commentator. So, he said, I'm taking an opportunity in Canada. Well, there aren't a ton of jobs. So,
I don't think he wants to live in Calgary or Ottawa either. I think,
I don't think there's a Toronto job available. So, Calgary, Winnipeg, Ottawa, Dave's going to Montreal. That's I where's your list? Like,
what do you mean? He's an ex-Leaf. They haven't fully locked up Bonesy and Jim Rao for next year, although I hear that's going to happen. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Okay, Vancouver or Toronto? How about that? Edmonton? No. I mean, there aren't. Just the odds are very low that it's not Vancouver. So, but in terms of how much of the job, that remains to be seen. I think we knew that obviously Ray Ferraro's name has been thrown around. We know that he's contracted with ESPN. As I said, I'm pretty sure that, I think the odds are high that ESPN extends him. Why wouldn't they? He's their lead guy. He's done very well. It's been a well-received broadcasts, although I think not as well received as TNT's, but still, like, he's one of the top commentators in the game. And so that is, if he's doing that full time, he can't be with the Canucks full time. And so I think that's still what I'm waiting to see what happens there, whether there's any kind of middle ground for him to fall on. But we don't really, at this point, I don't think there's any, I don't have any sense one way or another.
Good deduction, Peach. You're, when they make it easy for you, process of elimination.
Where should he be going?
Yeah. Boeser, he's got a new summer regimen. He's working with someone who Rick Tocchet is familiar with. He is really towing the coach's line here on a good summer. What do you think? Think he could still be a 30-goal guy? You think we're going to see a better Brock Boeser? That a switch has flipped here in terms of Brock and what he understands now that he needs to do to maintain his career, and particularly maintain his career at this level of salary and this level of responsibility.
I mean, he's one of the more fascinating people in the Vancouver Canucks realm. I really do think this. I've talked to enough over the years. I have mentioned this before. I go back to this conversation when in my first season covering the team, Petey's first season on the team, and Brock had become his sort of first friend, and having a chat with Brock about who his friend is, and him having a quite insightful answer, and then ending it with the classic, "Oh, I'm not really sure what you were looking for," and me having flashbacks to being a teacher, and when kids are like, "Oh, I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here," and he's a good guy. Like, I think that's very clear just from the way he's interacted with his fans over the years. Obviously the challenges his family has faced over the years. The way he spoke with me at the end of the season about what an emotional journey it had been following the death of his father, and how hard the season, his father's, his last season with his dad alive, how hard that had been. He realized in hindsight, and he came into the season obviously with the famous quote to Jeff saying this is going to be the year that he gets 30, and us then looking back on how the season went, and him having to learn how to, in his own way, manage the season alone, as he put it.
He's a thinker and a feeler, isn't he?
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
And not often, we get any sense of these guys. And, I've been thinking, it's one of those ones where in our craft, and, Matt, I think you appreciate this. They lend you their voice, right? You're trying to represent them fairly and be accurate. And it's a challenge at the best of times. And he's a guy that has shared a lot with, not just me, with some, with other reporters, but that's someone you would like to sit down and have a sort of a coffee with. Talking to people in the dressing room is still not real life, but I appreciate how much he's been willing to give away in that setting. So yeah, there's a sensitive emotional core to him. And I've consistently argued he's a better two-way hockey player than people give him credit for, but I don't think there is any denying that the wheels were a bit of an issue this past season. And if he is going to be the player that he was, in a two-way fashion, let alone a goal scorer, that is an area that he's going to have to improve. It's a durability, it's a strength thing, it's a fit. I mean, every player discovers this. You can go back to Bo Horvat, like the evolution of fitness that he took, and then the skill evolution, working with Adam Oates. Such a statement on how players can evolve. As we jokingly pointed out to him, he is now 26. He's in the second half of his 20s. He is, I can't remember the math now. I mean, he is essentially the longest tenured Canuck, although not in the organization, but in the NHL he is. And as he said, how did that happen? Well, that's life, young man. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I know Kuz is actually going to be chasing that story, so we'll have something up at the website about that hopefully next few days. It continues to be said. It's a big year for him. It really is. And the Canucks, I'm sure would love him to be the player that his salary says he is, and that would be brilliant. I'm not holding my breath for him to be a 30-goal scorer, but he has been close to that before. He was also younger, so we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. You remember Bo improved his wheels earlier than this. At a younger age.
Yes.
So maybe tougher to teach this dog old tricks. So we'll see.
No, older dog.
Yeah, you know what I mean. You get the saying. Come on. Lastly here, PJ, we're seeing different people churn out different numbers on guys like Soucy and Cole. You think it's possible, even though Soucy's the guy with multi-years, I think it's possible that Cole's a more impactful player this coming season?
I'm on the fence on that one. I mean, obviously, a lot of experience. He'd been a very solid quality player, but he's older, and I think that is the thing. I think Soucy is an interesting player to me because I first obviously became aware of him with the Wild, and he was just kind of this big, strong guy who caused trouble and got in the mix. And I think that is what I think Canucks fans will most latch onto, is that element. I mean, he is going to take penalties, but the manner in which he takes penalties tends to be the way that
crowd pleasing.
Crowd pleasing is the way to put it. Yeah. So but he is a much more well-rounded defenseman than I realized, just sort of having seen him in Seattle the last couple seasons, and then just sitting back and actually looking at who is this guy once you're writing about him. I like the way J-Pat put it on Rinkwide last week, which was that nobody has said the Canucks have been winners or losers in free agency, which is probably
about right. Yeah,
probably about right. Like, they haven't hurt themselves. They haven't made them. It's a tough division. It's not like they're going to be immediately leaping over anyone. I think both of them are defensemen that will help them be the lineup they want to be, but there's they felt better under the new regime. They weren't necessarily that much better defensively, but when you can bring in guys who are clearly NHL defensemen versus bubble guys, you would hope that adds up to what you want
something
it to be.
Better. Yes.
Yeah. And that's where I think that's where we're at. Is that they'll be fine. They should be fine. You'd hope they would be fine. I'm not holding my breath that this is going to be
to bring this fully around to the ticket sales. The Canucks, they'll be fine. I'm sure that'll be a real buzz creator.
It's gonna work out.
It's gonna work.
I'll be fine. We'll be fine. It'll be okay.
Yeah. There he is, everybody. He's on the front side of his 40s, and he's our third most tenured guest, the one and only Patrick Johnston of
600. Well done, guys. 601 today, right?
Well, you're on 601. Yeah,
you're in on 601.
A new century.
Oh boy, when the people go to download this years from now.
Remember. Thanks, 601.
Take care, guys.